record the presentation from now on. And before we jump into our presentations and our speakers, we just want to quickly go over the agenda. So first, we'll give a brief introduction of the topic. We went over the housekeeping notices. We will do a quick presentation of INCiTiS-FOOD and EWA-BELT, so the two projects that enabled this informative webinar to take place. And of course, then we will open the floor for our expert presentations and insights. Later, we will have an open floor and discussion portion and part. And of course, we will have our closing remarks. In the closing remarks, we do have a few questions prepared to ask you, the audience. So we would appreciate your engagement. Without further ado, let me just quickly introduce the topic itself. For the topic background, we are very familiar with the high level of food and nutritional insecurity currently present in Africa that is more so stressed by climate change and, of course, population growth. The African agricultural system faces a crucial decision and a dividing point between traditional, intensive, and emerging ecological and agro practices. So in those instances, there are key challenges that need to be addressed, meaning increased productivity, revert land degradation, reduce hunger, and of course, promote protein-rich diets, and of course, manage waste. And the idea of this webinar is to try to bring close as much as possible some positive solutions and some sustainable moves forward to showcase innovative insights from two European projects that I mentioned, EWA-BELT and INCiTiS-FOOD, in efforts to explore scalable and sustainable crop production technologies for enhancing food security and resilience in the Kenyan agricultural system, and of course, further in Africa. Without further ado, I'm going to briefly introduce the speakers before we go into our presentations of our projects. So Dr. Ibrahim is a senior lecturer at the Kenyan University, and he specializes in agricultural economics with a PhD from a university in Germany. He serves as the INCiTiS-FOOD Living Fund Manager at Kenyan University and is actively involved in circular economy and agri-food value chain activities. With over 15 years of international experience in socio-economical impact assessment and research, he is vastly knowledgeable in the agri-food value sector. His exclusive contributions, of course, include numerous publications in peer-reviewed journals, and of course, active participation in national and international conferences and projects. Moving forward, Professor Sheila is an associate professor at the University of Nairobi School of Biological Sciences. She holds a PhD and a master's in science degree in mycology from the University of Nairobi, where she is, of course, currently a professor. She has more than 90 publications in reference journals. She's also published 2 books and edited 2 volumes of international journals of tropical and subtropical agroecological systems. She is also a fellow in numerous activities, such as the Royal Society of Biology in the United Kingdom. And of course, she is a president of the African Society of Mycotoxicology and part of the Partnership of Control for Africa. Our other speaker, Dr. Noel, is an agronomist and post-harvest specialist with over 17 years of work experience in basic and adaptive research on food crops and also vegetables. Her research interests are also environmental and physiological stress that impacts crop growth. She has experience in offering capacity building on agri-food business development to farmers that are in close collaboration with government and non-government organizations. And last but not least, Professor Opio is an associate professor at horticulture at Agricultural University in Kenya. He holds over 35 years of experience in teaching and research, as well as consultancy in horticulture. He holds a master's degree in science in horticulture from Kenya, and of course a doctorate in science from China. He has successfully supervised numerous graduate students, and he has led and participated in several projects and consultancies on national and international level. He is a co-author of a training manual on African indigenous leafy vegetables for an extension officials and practitioners. So as you see, we have numerous experienced speakers that are trying to address a very pressing and informative topic today. So I'm quickly just going to stop sharing my screen so I can move on to the second portion of our webinar, which is a brief introduction of the 2 projects that have enabled this webinar series today. So, without further ado, my name is Olivera Stojlovic-Tribunic. I'm the head of ecosystem development at Food Scale Hub, and along with my colleague Christina, I will be showcasing the INCiTiS-FOOD project. We also have our coordinator present in the webinar in case you have any other additional information. Of course, we will introduce them later on in the open portion and discussion part. So the INCiTiS-FOOD project is actually an overarching idea that is living on for a duration of time. So the INCiTiS-FOOD project aims to enhance food and nutritional security in African city regions by reducing the environmental impact as well as promoting circularity in food systems. It focuses on two very important pillars, which is community empowerment and its collaborative landscape. The community empowered aspect means that we are trying to empower communities by creating opportunities in the agri-food supply chain and promote environmental justice through our transformative food policies. Our approach thus is interdisciplinary, and it tries to engage different stakeholders, technologies, capacities, and further foster European-African partnership for collaboration. Here on the right-hand side, you can just see a few quick notices and informations about the project itself. And what is important to note for INCiTiS-FOOD is that we have an innovative approach, meaning that we try to combine a multi-actor approach with lean startup methodology, fostering collaboration amongst actors and innovators across 8 living labs. We are trying to focus on prototyping and standardizing practices. So we're trying to bring use cases to life and emerge prototypes from them. We are trying to develop interactive engagement. So the idea and the great accent that we place in INCiTiS-FOOD is the idea of living labs working together on the same use cases, engaged in different regions and in different settings. With that, we try to promote large-scale demonstrations or scaling up further through our 2 open calls or cascade funds. So as I mentioned, INCiTiS-FOOD focuses on the aspect of circularity the most. So it focuses on co-creating circular agri-food technologies, practices, and business models that foster both an inclusive and stable or nutritious African food system. The technologies that we place great emphasis on, you can see on the left-hand side, is hydroponics, recirculating agricultural systems, and insect farming. And you can see from the diagram that they're trying to interact all together and bridge this circularity and stability perspective. And of course, these circular agri-food technologies are well suited for African cities as they're resource efficient, require minimal land, water, and of course, financial setup. To highlight further, the main accent of INCiTiS-FOOD is the concept of living labs. We're currently working on 8 different living labs in 6 countries across 3 African regions. On the below map, you can see where we have our main operations in Africa. And the idea of a living lab is that it contradicts or contrasts a traditional laboratory because it operates in real-life context situations and user-centric approach compared to closed-off systems of a traditional lab. And of course, our living labs are led by our African partner organizations, providing the ideal location for fostering socio-technological innovation through co-design, co-creation, and capacity building. And the speakers that we have today are actually our living lab managers. So this further pushes the idea that INCiTiS-FOOD tries to tackle them. And this is just a quick snippet of what INCiTiS-FOOD is all about. And without further ado, I will thank you for allowing me to present our project, and I will give the floor to Martina, our co-organizer from EWA-BELT.
Yes, thank you, Olivera. Thank you so much. I will share my screen to briefly introduce you the EWA-BELT project, whose full name is Linking East and West African Farming Systems Experience into a Belt of Sustainable Intensification. So we are, the EWA-BELT project consists of 20 partners among universities, research centers, NGOs, and businesses. We are active in 10 countries, among European countries, and we are also on the field in 6 sub-Saharan African countries from East and West Africa. In particular, we're working with Burkina Faso, Sierra Leone, and Ghana, and then again with Kenya, Tanzania, and Ethiopia. And within the EWA-BELT project that has started a few years ago now, we started in 2020, we have established more than 30 farmer field research units that we called the so-called FRUs. Basically, they were conceived as co-learning spaces where restoration, research activities, capacity building, like workshops, or other type of event, including farmer engagement can be implemented and can be activated through the participation of all actors among the entire spectrum. But what is the overall objective of the EWA-BELT project? What we intend to do and what we have been trying to do for the past 3.5 years is promoting agricultural production systems based on a sustainable intensification approach and technologies and best practices in East and West Africa. And as I've said, through the collaboration of very different and heterogeneous partners, and with the active involvement of farmers and extension services and a diverse set of external stakeholders. The overall ambition of the project is to create this interregional African belt, hence the name EWA-BELT, that is capable of promoting best practices and exchanging experiences not only among the African countries that we are working with, but also beyond the borders of the project in order to upscale the results that we have achieved so far and promote food security among the entire region and the entire African continent altogether. So in order to do that, we have drafted 6 work packages. So we have 6 work packages, but only a few ones are related on specific research activities. For instance, work package 2 addresses traditional and innovative agricultural practices. And this is exactly the topic that we are going to discuss about today. So we're working our partners are working on the neglected and underutilized crop species, which are crucial element in Africa, especially to address the food insecurity gaps that are still existent. So we're working on the potential that these crops have in order to ease this gap and provide safer and more sustainable crop production systems. Our 2 representatives from the University of Nairobi, Professor Sheila Okot and Director Noel from Cadro will address what we're doing within this topic. And among the main news that we are working with, we have groundnuts, we have finger millet, we have fra potatoes, and many others. We're also working on the modification of the soil, and that is basically encompasses sustainable soil management practices and sustainable water management practices, as well as we're working on agri-livestock management practices. Concerning work package 3 is that is working on improvement of crop and food protection. We are establishing some technologies that can help not only farmers, but also researchers and extension services and stakeholders through digital innovation, so through a digital platform and another easy and inexpensive digital tool. We're also working on maintaining what the farmers and what is the traditional knowledge that these farmers have concerning some specific practices, and we are integrating it with new approaches so that we have a full spectrum of the causes and possible solutions of some issues. And we're also working on pre and post-harvest management strategies through wide arrays of potential solutions that, of course, you are more than welcome to discover more on our website. We are also trying to boost the value chain of all the results that we have addressed so far in order to give a full perspective on the environmental, on the social, on the human and economic impacts of these of the research activities that we have been carrying out. And we are also working to define a set of sustainable intensification indicators that are useful for the literature. So without further ado, that was a very, very brief introduction on what we're doing. The project is much more, and it's much more also complicated. So I encourage you to discover more on our website. And I now can I pass the floor to our first speaker, who is Professor Sheila Okot from the University of Nairobi. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martina. And I will share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
We can see it. Okay, now it's in presentation mode. Thank you, Sheila.
Yes. So I'm going to present just a portion of the activities of the EWA-BELT. Just like Martina said, it's a complicated project. So this is just a few of the selected activities that are being done by the University of Nairobi in Kenya. And so I'll present to you just performances of selected technologies for improvement of groundnut or peanut farming in the Lake Victoria Basin. So why did we choose the Lake Basin? Now, the Lake Basin is one of the poorest areas of Kenya. And as you can see, 46% of the population lives under poverty. And most of the children, 1 to 7 out of 7 die before their 5th birthday. And the area is also prevalent with malnutrition and related diseases such as kwashiorkor. Now, this is Kenya, and the Lake Basin, which is around that place. This is the Lake Basin surrounding Lake Victoria, which is the largest freshwater lake in Africa and second in the world. So this is the Nyanza area that surrounds the Lake Victoria area. And their main activity here is agriculture and fisheries. So why did we select peanut? Now, once upon a time, peanut was a cash crop in this area, and it was also a source of protein and a source of food security in times of drought for the area. But with time, this has lost its position as an important crop, and we are going to look at the reasons why. And presently, as we speak, it has been marked as one of the cash crops in the Lake Victoria Basin economic blueprint, one of the crops to be focused on to increase the production. So the production has been decreasing, as you can see from this graph, from this table. We chose the 2 areas that we are working with, Homa Bay and Kisumu. And in 2015, 2015, the area under coverage was 5,000 and 1,000 for Kisumu County, and up to today, the Kisumu County has decreased to 561. The Homa Bay County is now picking up, but both the area under groundnut and the production has decreased with time. And one of the first things that we did when we started the project was to do a baseline survey and find out why this is happening. What is this that is decreasing the production, and what is it that is barriers to the marketing? And we have published this in this paper that is indicated there. You can go further, access this. So the key insights that we found from the survey was that 96% of the farmers locate less than an acre today under peanut, and that they don't use fertilizers at all. 89% don't use fertilizers. And this is because of poverty, and also the belief that with peanuts, if you add fertilizers, then you just get the leafy and the peanuts will not pale. So because of those beliefs, there has been deterioration of land over the years, and also due to poverty, there's recycling of seeds. So farmers have poor seeds that they've recycled over the years, and they don't have any awareness to aflatoxins, which is the main problem with peanut production. There's insufficient support of extension, so they don't know about the diseases, they don't know how to manage the diseases. And one of the diseases that is ravaging the area is the groundnut rosette caused by a virus, and also the rusts. These ones completely destroy their farms. Then there are high labor costs and unreliable mid-season drought. These are the major issues that we found out from our survey that has caused the decrease in production in the area. So then what did we decide to do as EWA-BELT? So we decided on several post-harvest strategies and pre-harvest and post-harvest strategies to help the area improve on the production. And one of them is the use of manure and also planting in rows. Initially, they would just scatter their seeds, and that makes it difficult during weeding and also low production. Then we also introduced superior varieties from INCiTiS to the area. We encouraged through training on crop rotation and mechanization to reduce the labor costs that they were experiencing. And also we introduced, together with Occam, the ICT tools for identifying diseases, so that we solve this problem of having less extension services. For post-harvest technology, we introduced modes of grain drying and storage practices, and also innovative storage bags, and also mechanization and value addition for their produce to decrease deterioration of their produce and also to bring in income. So these are the crops that they do with crop rotation: millet, sorghum, and maize. These ones were selected by the farmers themselves as they incorporated crop rotation within their farming practices. So one of the experiments that we did was evaluation of the selected agronomic practices as we introduced the 6 peanut varieties. And my next slide just shows the farms. Our plot here, you can see how beautiful it is. Now with the new technology of planting in rows. Initially, they was planted scattered like this. So this is a farm of one of the farmers who are not within our experimental group. And this is for a farmer within the experimental group. So you can see the ones within the experimental group, how their farms are clear and their produce is good. And this one is highly affected by the rusts. And you can see rust has really ravaged this farm. So this just shows the average yield of produce. The last one is the control, the common variety that they were using, the last two. And the first four are the ones that we introduced from INCiTIS. Then we also tested accumulation of aflatoxins. And again, you can see accumulation is high in the control variety, one of the varieties they were using. This and this one are the two that were locally used, and very low accumulation in the introduced varieties. Now, after all those activities, the farmers we did a survey so that the farmers select which one variety they want to pick up and produce. So they selected the CG9 and for consumption, and Nsijiro for peanut butter because it mills quite well. So these have now been further encouraged through the EWA-BELT project, through community bulking of the seeds so that they have quality seeds. So we have trained a few farmers now to be the suppliers of seeds for the other farmers so that they continue having quality seeds, which was one of the problems that they had. And of course, from the research also, we found out that manure decreases, addition of presence of plant parasitic nematodes, which were also affecting their groundnuts. So we also connected them to we showed them the importance of testing their soils so that they again don't over-fertilize the soils, because that will reduce the pinning of peanuts. So again, there is a paper here that has been published from this that you can refer to at a later date. Now, then the next technology that we looked and introduced to them was the use of PICS bags, improved bags. And this was after our evaluation through using rapids, that genetic diversity of the peanut varieties did not really influence accumulation of aflatoxins. It was rather the mode of storage. So these results are again published, has been submitted for publication in that manuscript, which when published, we will share with you. So through this genetic analysis that we did, we found that accumulation of aflatoxin is not determined by the genetics of the variety, but rather by the storage. And because of that, we tested the PICS bags, and we found that the PICS bags reduces insect population during storage and also accumulation of toxins. So we have also introduced this to the farmers. They are able to access and purchase this for their produce. So these experiments also are covered in these two papers that are captured on this slide. Now, we are going further to test another type of bag, that is the improved PICS bag that has the sodium metabisulfite. This one is with Cranfield, and already we are in the process of testing this. And depending on what the results come out, we'll be able also to share this with the farmers. But so far, we have also seen some trend of reduced fungal accumulation in the bags with storage in sodium metabisulfite bags as compared to the PICS bags. So depending on how the results come out in the end, this will be another technology that we will offer to the farmers. Then another fourth technology that Martina also mentioned is the use of the platform, which is called the plant head platform, that allows a farmer, it acts as an extension, so it allows the farmer to be able to identify the disease and also the management. So we collected the plant diseases of plants, so many over the seasons, and then Occam used the artificial intelligence and developed a platform which is already on use. All of you can already use it. And if you take a photo of a diseased part of the crop, once you are logged into the platform, then it will identify the disease for you and also show you how to control the disease. So here is a picture of farmers being trained on how to use the platform. And to date, the platform is live and they're already using it. So this reduces the dependence also on extension services, which is poor in the area.
Excuse me, Sheila, you have 2 minutes left.
Yes, this is the second last slide. Then the next technology was mechanization to reduce the labor. And you can see we introduced to the farmers. This is me here standing in style, introducing to the farmers how to use the harvester, and also how to harvest to get the shells from the plants. This is faster for them. And also we showed them value addition. Here is the group from the university with villagers doing testing from the value added peanut butter, so that they select which one is the best for them. Yeah, so these are the activities: farmer training, us taking samples, and with the farmers, these are the peanuts. And thank you very much for your attention. This is us with our harvests, and this is a picture after successful deliberation with the farmers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheila and Professor Okoti. Was a very nice presentation. That overview all the activities that are going on in Kenya, especially with the University of Nairobi as well as Kadro. So before going to the next speaker, I'm just going to give the floor for a second to Oliveira, who is going to explain what we're trying to do with the webinar.
Thank you so much, Martina. So I'm just going to quickly share. If you can take out your phones and log into Slido. If not, I will place in the chat the login informations with the code, so you can easily access it. I will not take more time of the speaker, but the idea is that you ask questions for the speaker if you don't feel comfortable unmuting yourself. And at the end, we will use the Slido to ask some of your feedback. So in the meantime, as we prepare for the next speaker, you can log in and pose a question to the speaker before, and we will have records of all the questions that you ask, and the ones that are voted the most, we will be able to ask our speakers. So thank you, Martina. I give back the floor to you, and I will quickly share the information in the chat as well.
Thank you so much, Oliveira. Hope we can have nice questions, many nice questions, so we can have a nice discussion at the end. So without further ado, I will pass the floor to Professor Arnold Opio from Egerton University, who is going to deliver a presentation on the production of fruit and African leafy vegetables using BSF frass and fish sludge in aquaponic system.
Thank you very much. I'll share my slide. Can you see my slide?
Yes, the only thing, exactly. So we should be able to see it in presentation mode now.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yes,
Can you hear
Dr.
me? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I'd like to welcome you to this presentation. I'm making this presentation on behalf of the Egerton University Living Lab. And my presentation will be on production of fruit and African leafy vegetables using black soldier fly frass and fish sludge in an aquaponic system. Just as a quick overview, Egerton University was founded in 1939, starting off as a small farm school offering certificate courses in agriculture. In 1950, it was elevated to an agricultural college and offered diploma programs in agriculture. It continued to grow, and in 1987, Egerton became a fully fledged university. Currently, the university has got 10 faculties, including the Faculty of Agriculture and also the Faculty of Science. It also plays host to a number of projects, both national and international. One of them is the Center of Excellence in Sustainable Agriculture and Agribusiness Management, which is a World Bank funded project under the Centers of Excellence, the African Centers of Excellence. And it is within CESAM that INCiTiS project is operating, which is a collaboration between the Faculty of Agriculture and Faculty of Science. The Living Lab was established in 2023 as part of an EU-funded project. In this lab, we have 3 components. The first component is on insects, the second component is on aquaculture, and the third component is on hydroponics. So we integrate all these 3 different systems to operate as a single unit where they complement each other. In the first case, where we have the insects, we use organic waste from plant materials, including vegetables and fruits, and we use the BSF, or the black soldier fly, to compost this waste material. The waste from the black soldier fly, that is the black soldier fly frass, is then used as a media or as a fertilizer for the vegetable crops that we are growing. The BSF larvae is used to feed the fish in the aquaculture system, and the water from the fish tanks, that is the sludge, is then used to irrigate the vegetables that we grow. So that's how we maintain or try to have a circular system within our living lab. The vegetables that we are focusing on are specifically the African leafy vegetables. And we chose these leafy vegetables because of their resilience, more so with the issues of climate change. Secondly, these vegetables are quite nutritious. So we are working on African nightshade, we are working on amaranth, cowpea, and slender leaf. For this particular presentation, I'm going to focus on the cowpea. For the exotic vegetables, we are working on lettuce, Swiss chard, and tomato. So the results which I'm going to present today are preliminary results from our studies, and these are results obtained by our graduate students who hope that this will form part of their thesis work. So we do use growth beds within our system. The growth beds have got an area of 2.43 square meters and a depth of 24 centimeters. The media that we use in these growth beds is pumice, together with the BSF frass acting as a fertilizer, which is the source of the nutrients. Cowpea is what we are focusing on today, and I think we're all aware that this is a drought-tolerant legume. For cowpea, we do have different varieties. We have a variety which is specifically for leaves, a variety for grains, and we have the dual-purpose variety, which is for both leaves and grains. For this particular report, we are working on the leaves. That is the cowpea leaves and not the one on the grain. The best temperature conditions or the ideal temperature conditions are between 20 to 30 degrees centigrade for the cowpea. In our system, we did direct seeding of the cowpea. The plant population was derived by spacing our plants at a distance of 45 centimeters between the rows. The sowing depth, 2 to 3 centimeters. And we can see this in this particular slide here. We have the cowpea there, which have already germinated. 2 weeks after sowing, we did thinning so that we ended with a spacing of 15 centimeters within the row. So the spacing in this system that we are using is 45 centimeters by 15 centimeters. Harvesting of cowpea is done now based on the issue that we are interested in the leaves. We are interested here on the tender leaves. And you can harvest your cowpeas anything between 21 to 30 days after sowing. That's about 3 to 4 weeks after sowing, you're able to get your crop. There are two systems which we can use for harvesting the cowpea. The first system is by uprooting. And this is usually done when the plants have got about 6 true leaves, you can harvest the entire plant. The second system is where you harvest periodically, or what we refer to as sequential harvesting. And harvesting here, you can harvest once a week or even once every 2 weeks, depending on the variety and the speed of growth of your plants. So in our case, we were harvesting sequentially. Some of the challenges which we may come across, we did observe under our system. One was a case of nutrient deficiency. And this happened at the younger stages or the early stages of growth. And this is with regard to iron. So we did observe iron deficiency. Later, towards the end of the cropping season, we did come across isolated cases of some leaves curling due to viral infection. Now, looking at this, the issue of nutrient deficiency, one of the issues could be that our frass and maybe the fish sludge does not contain enough iron to sustain the plants. And more so, especially if you look at it, this is something which we observed much earlier in the cropping season as opposed to the later stages of the crop growth. Just a quick mention of what sort of yields we have so far recorded. Within one growth bed, which is 2.43 square meters, we had 27 plants. We were able to have 8 harvests. The harvesting duration was 3 months. The total yield that we got from that 2.43 square meters was 6.83 kilograms. This works out to 2.8 kilograms per meter square. And if you work it out on a per hectare basis, then we get 28.11 tons per hectare. If you compare this with the conventional yields that we get, the conventional outdoor production will give you close to about 6 tons per hectare. So the system that we have has a promising, the results are fairly promising that the yields could be much higher compared to the conventional practice. For the exotic vegetables, we focused on the tomato production. Tomato, we all know that in this country is one of the most widely grown and consumed vegetables. And the variety that we had, or we sought our seedlings from a commercial nursery. The cultivar was Star 9068. We had 9068. This is a fairly intensive system. So here you can see where the transplanting of the seedlings was being done. The spacing we've used, I said, is quite intensive, 45 by 45. This gave us a plant population of 12 plants in our 2.43 meter square bed. This works out to about 5 plants or 5 plants per square meter. At the time of transplanting, a handful of the frass was added to each planting hole. For irrigating the crops, we use the water from the fish sludge, which we obtain from our own fish tanks. And top dressing was done. Top dressing was done every 3 weeks by applying 2 handfuls of frass to each tomato plant. Management included the pruning of the side shoots and also training of our plants. And this is the bed where we had the tomatoes. Of course, they were trained to some strings so that they were not lying onto the bed. The challenges which we encountered, one was key, and this is the presence of the tutor. We had a problem of tutor. And I think for those of us in Kenya, we do know that tutor is a major problem at the moment, wiping out crops. This was not there initially, but it came in a bit later. The other observation was that of whiteflies and also that of aphids, which were observed, but the population was not something to cause any alarm. Harvesting, we harvested the pink and the red stages. And this is where our PhD student is measuring the harvest of that particular day. Now, we may wonder why we are talking about the pink and the red. That is, of course, for fresh consumption, and that is what most of the people would prefer for home use. Talking about what we had, I said in terms of the yields, we had 12 plants. Total harvests were 11. We were able to harvest for a total duration of 7 months. The total yield for the 2.43 square meter was 31.61 kilograms. This gives us 2.6 kilograms per plant. Now, if we compare the harvest duration with what you'd expect a conventional outdoor tomato production, whereas we did 7 months, you normally have 3 to 4 months, and in exceptional cases, you may have up to about 5 months. Now, looking at this yield, if you work out this, considering that we have about 5 plants per square meter, we worked out 2.6 kgs per plant. This works out to 13 kgs per square meter, which works out to be 130 tons per hectare, which is far above what we can get in our outdoor production. So just in conclusion, the system we're operating is quite promising. The cowpea yields were at least 4 times higher than what you get in a conventional outdoor production. In tomatoes, if we look at the outdoor production, which is about 8 to 10 tons per acre, that gives you about 30 tons per hectare, and we are talking about 130 tons per hectare. So you can expect about 3 to 4 times higher yields compared to outdoor production. Compared to greenhouse or protected cropping, which some of our farmers are currently practicing, we recorded that the yields we obtained should be at least about 50% higher. You also have fewer incidences of pests and diseases in the system, and we do believe there is, we are yet to verify that, but it is possible that the frass could be having some repelling action against some of these insects. The disadvantage, setting up the system can be quite tasking, especially to some ordinary farmers. Nutrient deficiencies, which I've already mentioned, especially like in our case where you find that the fish we're using were still fairly small and maybe they're not giving enough waste. And therefore we had the challenge of deficiencies. And of course, this is a time demanding system where you have to be there on a daily basis. We do get a lot of visitors visiting our system and showing interest, both local and international visitors who visit the university. We also have secondary school pupils who visit our lab. We also have middle-level college students who come to the university for attachment and get involved in the activities. I'd like to thank the organizers for giving us this opportunity to share our experiences. All those who are logged in, thank you for sparing time to be with us. And of course, my colleagues in the Egerton team who are listed there. This is the team which is working or which is involved in the Egerton Living Lab. Thank you so very much for your attention. I hope you find the presentation informative. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Opio. It was such an interesting presentation, and of course, congratulations on the promising results that you are having already. Thank you. Again, I'm just reiterating that if you have any questions, you can write them in the app that Oliveira shared before, and is also in the chat. After the presentations are over, we are going to go over the questions and let the most voted ones to be answered by the panelists. Thank you again, Professor Opio, and I am now ready to present you the next speaker, who is the director of Cadro, Dr. Noelle Makete. She is going to present her presentation with the title, Harnessing the Value of Forgotten Crops in Cereal Legume Rotations. So I will, so if Professor Opio, could you please stop your presentations so that we can move to the next one? Okay, thank you very much. Noelle, you can share your screen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martina. Kindly confirm if all of you can be able to see my screen.
Yes, we can see it and we can hear you.
Okay. So thank you very much. On behalf of Dr. Francis Waiua, my name is Noelle Makete, and I'm just sharing with you experiences from Western Kenya, where this project is situated, and specifically Kakamega, Bungoma, and Busia. And what we would like to share on is the topic of harnessing the value of neglected crops in cereal legume rotations. So at the beginning of the project, we had a baseline study, and the baseline scenario at the project sites was as follows. These were characterized by cereal rotations and predominantly maize rotations. There was limited diversity of cereal and legume crops, and the existing ones had poor crop varieties, and farmers were also managing these crops poorly. There was also inadequate as well as lack of use of fertilizer, that is both organic and inorganic fertilizers for crop production, and especially the neglected crops, because for the little fertilizer that farmers were able to access, they prioritized this on applying it to maize. And they said this was mainly due to financial constraints. And also we observed a decline in soil fertility, and also limited access to seed of improved crop varieties. There were also problems of emerging pests and diseases, and reports that have been studied in the area indicate there are cases of aflatoxin contamination, especially on stored produce. And there was also limited information on nutrition education. So the target crops were finger millet, and the reason why finger millet was chosen as a forgotten or neglected crop is basically because it's very rich in nutrients. It has a low glycemic index. It's of high economic value, has very stable market prices. It is attacked by less pests and has few incidences of diseases. And it is a good cushion for food sufficiency, because in Kenya, there are periods or rather months where hunger is experienced. But with the incorporation of finger millet in the system, this could act as a good cushion, especially during these hunger months. And also because finger millet has wide adaptability and it can grow in a wide range of climatic conditions as well as soils. Then also culturally, it's regarded for its value at social events such as wedding, marriage ceremonies, and especially also for entertaining special parties. And the variety we were introducing in the area is called finger millet variety U15. The other neglected or forgotten crop is sorghum, which is also highly nutritious, good for food sufficiency, it's climate smart, and this particular variety, which is Seredo, is tolerant to bird damage, has low incidences of lodging, and it's widely utilized by many communities in Western Kenya. For the groundnut, farmers preferred red Valencia variety, which is nutrient dense, it's a smart food, it has very high economic value, and besides that, it contributes to soil invigoration, and it is a popular snack where you only require small quantities to ease hunger pangs. So for the technology interventions, the approach we were using for entering communities is the group approach, where we would enter communities and have farmer groups where we'd conduct on-farm participatory technology development. And in this approach, farmers are able to learn by practically doing the technologies. And we are doing this in farmer field research units. So we introduced cereal legume rotations using farmer preferred crop varieties. And the reason why it was very important to hear the farmer's voice is so that in the end, they would be able to accept and adapt these varieties. So we also introduced testing of different fertilizers, that is both organic and inorganic fertilizers for the cereal crops. And this, we had a survey to know which were the readily available organic sources, so that farmers would not have to worry about an organic source that they do not have. For example, most of the areas that we were working with have poultry in their homesteads. So the organic source of manure was poultry manure, and this was incorporated together with the inorganic fertilizers. And in particular, we were using NPK because we realized that most of the soils were acidic, and so we avoided fertilizers that could increase this problem. And then we also introduced improved crop varieties, like the varieties I've been mentioning have special attributes. For example, these are early maturing, and they were able to fit into their 2 cropping seasons. Striga tolerant, because striga is one of the problems being experienced in the area, less susceptible to bird damage. And together with this, we also introduced sunflower that we were planting as a border crop, so that the birds could attack the sunflower and leave the crops to thrive. And overall, the choice of crops we are using are those that can thrive with very little inputs. And together with that, we are also introducing better agronomic practices for better crop management. And within the groups, we are fostering group cohesion by encouraging the farmers to have common interest activities and also encouraging them to participate in knowledge sharing events. In addition to these practices, we also have pre and post-harvest management practices. And this is mainly to avoid mycotoxin contamination in stored food. Remember, aflatoxin was one of the problems we found during the baseline survey. And some of the technologies that we are using is testing the use of AflaSafe, which is a pre-harvest biocontrol for management of mycotoxins. And this is on the neglected crops and also on the maize, which we already found the farmers growing in the system. So we did not abandon the maize, but we complemented this with the introduction of the underutilized crops that we introduced to the farmers. Then also we are having storage experiment where we are testing some specialized birds which have the slow release of sodium metabisulfite, which helps the produce to last much longer as opposed to the ordinary bags. We are also using the PICS bags to be able to store this produce. And then we also have a modeling study that we are carrying out for the risk of mycotoxin production in stored produce. And within this study, we are using decision support systems so that we can be able to predict the occurrence of mycotoxin in the stored produce. And then we are also training farmers in other pre and post-harvest technologies, for example, how to harvest their crops at the right stage and how to store them, which kind of containers they can be able to use, even just by drying in the sun using tarpaulin bags so that their produce does not get soil. So, and during our work, we are finding out that there are emerging technology champions, and these are farmers who are becoming trainers for other group members, as well as other interested farmers who are outside the localities which we are working with. Because during field days, we have farmers exchange what they're learning. And for the new farmers who visit the groups, they find interest. And when they want to also adopt the technologies, they use these technology champions to be able to teach them what we have taught them. And then also through the project, platforms have been created, and these platforms are ensuring continuous dialogue. And this include the farmer field research units, the plant head platform, stakeholder forums, as well as international visits where some stakeholders get the chance to participate. And we are able to exchange with other partners within the EWA-BELT project. So these are some of the photos from the field. And here you can see there's the participatory technology development where farmers are participating in doing the technology so that they can actually learn and be able to replicate this on their own farms. This is the finger millet crop, sorghum and groundnut looking very healthy in the seed. And in particular, this is a harvested groundnut crop. And the women from this region actually say this is the first time they're harvesting so much groundnut since they were married in this area. And this is just a snapshot of the Aflasef that we are using as the pre-harvest biocontrol. This is a photo of the PICS bag, and we are encouraging farmers to dry their produce not on bare ground, but on tarpaulin so that to ensure good quality produce. And then what we are finding out, or the gaps that we see going forward, we see the need to mechanize some of this processing procedure. For example, in finger millet, harvesting and threshing is still a challenge. So through mechanization, we'll be able to encourage large-scale production even in the future. And then also there's need to exploit available opportunities to process these cereals and groundnuts into other high-value products. And this is to increase the economic value, shelf life, and overall reduce the burden of over-reliance on wheat products. There's also need to train farmers to explore community-certified seed production mechanisms so that these improved crop varieties are readily available and accessible at farm level to the farmers who need them. And then there's also more research that needs to be done, especially for better seed storage technologies for important oil crops such as groundnuts. So seed storage is one of the problems for the oil crops because they tend to lose viability very easily because of the oil content in this. And so more research needs to be done so that we can be able to improve this storage. And then also there's need to continue strengthening the already existing platforms created so far so that they form a basis for continuous dialogue, and in particular where the farmer's voice is heard. And this is important so that the technologies that we take to the field can be quickly and easily adapted by the farmers. Thank you very much for your kind attention. And for more information, kindly visit our website. And at this moment, I would just like to thank the organizers of the event for inviting us, and also our partners for the great collaboration we've had. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Noel. It was very interesting presentation, and thank you also for making the point of having the farmers actively involved in the decision-making process of the research activities. Again, yes, so I will just keep it to the last panelist for today so that we can later focus on the questions. Again, if you have any questions related to the presentation of Director Makete, you can either put them in the chat or use the app that Olivera has sent the details for in the chat. So without further ado, I would like to
So I think, Martina, sorry, you just froze for a second.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, it works now.
Okay, so I'll start over.
Sorry, Martina, we lost you again. I'm just gonna quickly take it over. I think your internet is breaking a little bit. So without further ado, let me introduce our last speaker. Dr. Ibrahim, are you able to share your screen?
Yes, let me just share it.
Yes, please. Great. From what I see, the screen is loading and we're able to see your screen. If you can just put it in full presenter mode, that would be great. Just at the other side, the other left side. Yes, great. Let's see if that works. Great, thank you so much. We're able to see your presentation at full screen. No, you can put it back. Yes, that's it. It works. Great. I give the floor to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you everybody for this presentation. I will be presenting on behalf of Kenyatta University. My name is Ibrahim Macharia, and I will be looking at the suitability of African leaf vegetables for fields and agronomic systems. Basically, for most of you, maybe they may not be aware of where we are. We are in Nairobi City. Kenyatta University is in the Nairobi, and basically, if you want more information, we have our website, or you can search Kenyatta University. And something of very importance here is that we host the Shadali Innovation Center, whereby all innovations are accepted from even outsiders, and we invite you to come and see us. Thank you. So basically, when we talk about aquaponic, we are just looking at the summation of aquaculture and hydroponic, whereby now you do fish production with crop production. And the key thing is that this is a closed loop system, whereby the fish waste is used to grow the crop. And of course, the crops where they are growing in the media, that place also helps in purifying the water, and it becomes a cyclic, so the water goes back. And this system is possible to reduce the water usage by almost 96%. There are key four parts of this kind of a system. We have the fish tank in KU, we have the filtration part, we have the sump where the water comes from, and of course the different grow bed, but this one is just one of them, which we call the medium based. The good thing with this kind of thing is that it's possible to efficiently use the nutrient, because you don't need to put any fertilizer from outside. The fertilizer is coming from the fish waste, and you can reduce the water wastage almost 96%. And the nutrient, of course, they are recycled. And this can support urban agriculture where the spaces are small. Looking at KU Living Lab, this is where we host all these different kind of grow beds. And the fish tank is here. This is the filtration part. We have a sump here where the water comes from. And we have different types of grow bed, like the medium grow bed. We have the nutrient filtration. We have the deep water culture and aeroponic. And basically, these are different grow beds we have evaluated. This is the medium base where we are using the PUBase. And from now on, we'll be talking about MB. Then you have nutrition filtration techniques, whereby the water moves from these pipes. And of course, this water is coming from the fish pond, and it have nutrients, so it moves. And of course, they are normally slanted in a different way, so that the water can come and pass out. Then this is the deep water culture, whereby we have the fish down here, and you grow the crop up here. Then we have the aeroponic, whereby the water is coming from up here, and it comes through these pipes, and of course, it is giving the nutrient to these crops. Basically, for our case, we also had a control whereby we had the soil-based, so that we could see the difference in the parameters that we are checking on the crops. Yeah, and we evaluated basically 3 types of leafy vegetables. The reason why we embarked on the leafy vegetables, Africans, was this because they are more nutritious. And of course, they are a bit value-based, because they are more expensive compared to other vegetables in the market. And of course, they also have some little bit of problem solving, because there are some of them, they are probably, from what we have heard, is they are able to reduce the stomach ache. They are also results in reducing the teeth problem and all that. And some, like the cowpea, as my predecessor who have talked about it, is possible to reduce the diarrhea and constipation. So the data we collected in this part of our experiment is we were looking at the growth rate in terms of the height, number of leaves, the leaf sizes, and the yield at the end. Then we are also keeping the system cost, so that we can be able at a later date be able to see the cost benefit analysis, and we see the payback period, because of course the aquaponic is a little bit expensive when you look at the initial investment. Then we are also looking at the water usage, and we are also recording the challenges that are coming out of this, and how we are coming up with the solution to those kind of problems. So the ongoing part is that we want to do the economic data, and right now the proxy analysis is being done, whereby we want to see the kind of nutrients that we can get from this kind of this, more on the growth rate, the height, the number of leaves, and the yield. Yeah, so first we tested the germination, and of course, as you can see, the African nightshade was the best, almost 100%. Sorry, the cowpea was almost 100%, but the nightshade had some problem. We only got around 25%. And this is still being going on to see whether the seeds had any problem, but they were bought in the same vicinity. The expiry date was checked, was okay. So we are still getting through to see what could be been the problem, or if there is no problem, then we know that is what happens. Basically, on the growth, you can see the growth were measured from week 0 up to week 5. And relatively, when you look at the plant height, the African nightshade was doing better than cowpea all through. And when you look again the number of leaves, somehow the cowpea was a little bit better, but not significantly different. And when you look at the leaf sizes, the African nightshade was the best. And when we looked at the plant height within different grow beds, the 4 of them, so you can see the GP, of course, the medium based, and we have the SB, which is the soil based, which was our control, and the AP is the aeroponic, NFT is theme techniques, as this is the deep water culture. Relatively, you can see the medium based was doing much better than when you compare it with the control, which was the soil based. although the others were also not too badly off. Again, when you look at the cowpea, the same case applies here. The medium-based, whereby we had the PMS is doing very well as compared to the soil-based, which is the control. Yeah, this is one of the most important parts, whereby now we looked at the youth, and relatively we saw that doing the production in the grow bed was very good. In fact, it's almost double as compared to the soil-based, though the others were relatively lower. But comparatively, the PMS one was doing much better. Again, in the cowpea, the same thing was also found. The above ground, of course, is where we are harvesting the leaves, and the below ground is what we have in the base as the root part. Yeah, so, sorry. So there were some of the challenges we found in this setup. Particularly, there was some infestation with spider mite, and we ended up solving the problem using the method, and it really worked well. And we also had a little bit of aphids. We also had a little bit of whiteflies and a little bit of powdery mildew, but this did not warrant any intervention. Yeah, in the lab, we have been having so many visitors, especially the schools and students, and of course, internationally, there are some people who also come and visit us. In fact, there was also a time we had some politicians coming to see what is happening. But one thing which is very important to mention here is that we had a 1-week training of 14 youth who are very much interested, and they were also trained on how to make business out of this in terms of the business modeling. And these are the members of KU. We have our leader here, Professor Gary, and these are all the partners we have, and we have the students who are really doing good job with the system. Yeah, I want to thank everyone for listening to me, and I welcome any question that might come up. And my colleagues are also here with me, so they will be there also to assist where the question is left. So I thank the organizers for this, and we look forward for more of these ones. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Macharia. It was such an interesting presentation on the topics that I personally knew nothing about. So that was very enriching. Thank you. So the presentations are now over. Before going to the questions, so we have some questions for the panelists. I would like to remember this first webinar, first of a series through a picture. So if you are comfortable with switching on your camera, we would like to take a picture. Of course, if you're not comfortable, no problem. It's just to document that we had such a nice discussion and related follow-up. Okay, so I'll give just 1 second and I'll take 2 pictures. Sorry. I got 1. Let me take another one. That's great. So thank you very much. And I'll now give the floor to Olivera.
Thank you so much, Martina. Thank you so much for our lovely speakers. We appreciate your insights. We appreciate your time, and we value your insights. To get the interesting part started, and before we do, I would just kindly ask whoever has to leave sharply at the time that we allocated for our webinar. We do understand. and we appreciate that you were able to stay for the whole duration. We might extend the webinar a few minutes to try to get as many questions to our speakers as possible, and to try to collect as many of your insights as we can. So in case you are not on Slido, please, you can use the QR code on the left-hand side, or you can simply go online to slido.com and use the code below. So one of our most voted questions is for our speaker who talked about mycotoxins. What is included in your training for farmers on mycotoxins, and is this available? Is this data available somewhere? So, Noel, would you be comfortable answering this question?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. So for farmers, we are introducing a compound called Aflasef, which can easily be applied to the crops, and this is pre-harvest. Just before the crop flowers, that is what we are using. So what happens is that the Aflasef suppresses the toxicogenic causing fungi, and so that in the produce you end up harvesting has much lower incidences of contamination. And then for this information available somewhere, yes, we can make it available to you, how to use the Aflasef and exactly what it is. Please get in touch with us. And also on our website, it's there.
Thank you so much for the response. So we will definitely be sharing all of our speaker contacts with our registered participants so that you can stay in contact with them and reach out. Our second question, most voted one, is for our first speaker, is does the peanut butter that was created get sold on the markets?
Thank you very much, Olivera. Yes, the peanut butter is being sold to the market. And also we have connected the farmers to a trader who picks up the peanut butter from them and sells in their shops around the area, Kisumu County and Homa Bay County. Thank you.
Fantastic. So everything that you are creating is trying to get the community strengthened. So fantastic. We do have another question. I see it below, most voted for Noella, but we can maybe ask our two speakers from INCiTIS-FOOD. This question can be addressed to them. So how does the cost of setting up and maintaining the aquaponics system compare to traditional farming? So what are the implications for small-scale farmers? So I believe that both of you can address this question. So whoever wants to go first, please go ahead. Professor Opio or Dr. Ibrahim, whoever wants to answer these questions, please go ahead.
Maybe Olivera, if I can chip in for the two living labs, I'm not answering everything for all of them, but from the Egerton perspective.
Can you please just briefly introduce yourself? That would be lovely.
Okay. I thought the name is there. This is George O'Ward, the coordinator for the Egerton Living Lab. I would like just to weigh on this in relation to Egerton, and maybe we may apply also to KU. Comparing establishment of the kind of system for what we are doing in the university and also trying to train others and doing it with our farmers. From my experience, we have 4 farmers who are already onboarded. What we learned is that, one, not all farmers are able to run with the whole system from insect rearing, fish, up to the vegetables. They tend to pick part of it. The most common one is they go for the fish and the vegetables. The likely thing is that I think the two are market oriented and they need it immediately after the product is ready. The second thing is that it's relatively not cheap to, Professor Pio mentioned it, it's not cheap for any just common farmer to establish the greenhouse using purchased materials. So what we are trying to do is to allow them and help them develop greenhouses using local materials. One is, instead of using iron materials or that type of thing, we are using timber or poles, which they can get from their farms. And also, instead of, you see that growth bed, you can also use these pumice, but you can also use normal sand as long as it is cleaned well. It also works. And so what we have found that the best option is that comparatively it would be expensive, but there are options that farmers can easily adopt. And many farmers are adopting a variety of materials, provided at least there is a greenhouse. There are also different materials for the polythene that is used to cover the greenhouse. And there are some that are cheaper, there are some are more expensive. In some areas where it's a little bit warmer, you may not need to use the polythene. You can use a net. There's a black net, which is sometimes much cheaper. So these are the options. But if you are comparing 100%, it will not be cheap for farmers. They must, we have to allow them. And that is part of the INCiTiS innovations, allowing farmers to innovate and think out of the box. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for the response. I think it's lovely that people who are following us do have insights from on ground. We also have one question that's very interesting for Noella, which is community certified seeds. What does that mean? So it's a very interesting question to hear a response. If Noella, you can maybe help us understand what community certified seeds are.
Thank you very much for the interest. So by the need to have a community certified seed is because farmers have a habit of sharing seed, and what they're calling seed is not actually seed, but just sharing the grain, which they use as seed. So we think by empowering the farmers to be able to learn how to produce proper seed, and by this I mean even involving the seed certification body. For example, in Kenya is KEFIS, so that together we can take them through the steps through which they can be able to produce a good quality seed, and with this they can be able to sell or share to other farmers at community level. So in Kenya, the practice is that we have mostly large-scale contract farmers who are contracted by seed companies to be able to produce seed of specific commodities. But there's some commodities which are like not the ones that are open pollinated. For example, the finger millet and finger millet. So seed companies don't produce this seed so much. So at community level, if we encourage this production of such kind of seed, it will be able to reach farmers who would have otherwise used grain instead of getting good quality seed at community level. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the response. And unfortunately, we are a little bit out of time. And to just ensure that we do get the most of the responses that we can from you, the audience, we would just kindly ask before we close the webinar for your feedback on a few questions. So if you can jump onto Slido and try to provide a response. So what are some recommendations and research priorities that need to be looked at? So after this webinar, we try to address different perspectives on crop production in Kenya with different angles and approaches to try to tackle the issues that are happening currently in Africa. So as a spectator of our insights, what do you think are some recommendations or priorities that we need to look forward in the future? I'm going to give a minute for people to log in and provide a feedback. So it is an open-ended response, so any form of response is accepted. So we see one participant typing, so please feel free to type and participate. We do have 2 more quick questions, and then we will see if we still have time for additional responses from our panelists. If not, all of the questions that you asked are saved, and we will see to try to respond to them in due time. All right, we have our first response, disease management, production of selling to the market. Great. Thank you so much. We'll give a minute more and then we will move on to the second question. If you're having issues with Slido and you still want to participate, you can put your response in the chat and we will include it as we do have the history of the chat option available to us. All right, collaboration. Yes, collaboration is oftentimes an important thing that we would like to tackle. So thank you very much for the input. All right, I do see some responses in the chat as well. So we will move on to our second question, just to be mindful and appreciate your time for staying over. So how do you see the future of crop production system in Kenya? So now that you know that there are projects working on alternative and sustainable practices and are trying to mediate the issues that have been experienced. So what do you think the future will look like? All right, we have some participants typing. It will include more resilience. Yes, we are trying to find ways to create a more resilient food system. Yes, we need to upscale to create change, and these projects are the first stepping stone to trying to upscale and share impact. So as you see, most of our projects and our partners and initiatives are collaborative in nature, trying to reach as many farmers as possible, not just keeping it with project-related activities.
There's also an answer from the chat that says more sustainable food system. So the very core of both projects is the sustainability and how we can ensure long-term sustainable production systems in Kenya, but in all the countries that I believe we're working in. So of course, we are our efforts are to ensure that, and hopefully we will see it come to reality.
Thank you so much, Martina, for following the chat. It's quite beneficial when 2 people are on different parts. All right, let's just move on to the last question. Sorry, Martina.
There was another one that was accessibility to technology. Yes, integrating new and traditional approaches is the way forward. So making accessible these technologies is a must, and we need to ensure that, as well as for the need for ecological agriculture that has just appeared in the chat. So thank you very much for the feedback.
Great, fantastic. Thank you all for being very active. And our last let's say feedback and hope that we have to close our webinar with such an engaging aspect is, how do you see this webinar in one word? So in one word, how would you summarize this webinar?
Again, you can also write in the chat. Right, insightful. We have insightful. So that's we're very glad to hear that.
All right, we have participants typing. That's great.
We also have very informative. an excellent idea. Educative, that's good. And diverse. Yes, I think it was we touched upon very different topics that still were included under the same umbrella of the general crop production system. So we had a lot of insights and helpful insights. Informative.
Great, fantastic. We see that people are timely, fantastic. We see that people are trying to be appreciative of us being so collaborative, but I think that people are trying to signal to us that they're about to leave, and I see that some are actually leaving, so I'm just going to stop share my screen, and thank you so much for the feedback of well organized. Without further ado, then I will simply appreciate all of you for your feedback. We will, if you're still typing, we will use this information as feedback. We will use all of your questions to guide some insights and to guide our responses and produce something of public availability and relevance. So all of the feedback that you've given us will not go in vain. We will try to incorporate it in any and all of our work that we do. Thank you to the speakers for your time and your insights. Of course, we will be sharing their contacts and information if you want to collaborate. And thank you, Martina and EWA-BELT in general for the collaboration. And I will give the floor to you, Martina, if you have anything else to say.
Thank you. No, I just wanted to say and to reiterate the gratefulness for our participants and our panelists and to the INCiTIS-FOOD. I think we're on the right track to cooperation, fruitful collaboration and cooperation among projects. And again, as Olivera has just announced, we will make great use of the feedbacks that you have given us, and we will publish both a press release on the webinar as well as some document that not only resumes what we have been saying for the past 1 hour and 42 minutes, but also to give some policies, not policy, but some suggestions and recommendations to take the efforts that we're both doing forward and to more sustainable future in Kenya and in Africa, and to whoever wants this mission to actually work. So thank you very much, and thank you everyone for participating and for bearing with us.
Thank you so much. With one more thing before we close is that the data that has been presented here is from the 2 projects. So if you do want to collaborate on any publications, please be mindful that you should reach out to the presenters themselves and seek collaboration, because the data is produced from the project and themselves. So again, thank you so much. And with that, we can safely close the webinar.
Thank you. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Good. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.